Story over. Okay, what?
So the musician, Pink.
Okay.
Yeah. I think she's promoting a fake product called I'm going to get this wrong, the spicy AF chipses, bitches, something.
Did you just throw a chipses?
Yeah, that's what she says. Anyway,
okay.
And then she's at the grocery store wearing like an apron or whatever. She's like, "Come get your free samples. Then she's standing at the table going, these are spicy as."
I guess I need to check that out.
Yeah, you probably should. It's pretty funny.
Let's see if we're going to go live here. Don't write it. We'll do it live. I don't know if we are or not, honestly.
Oh, maybe. Maybe not.
Maybe
a lot of things.
Maybe a lot of things. I don't know how to see if we're live. Last time I just checked and it said you're live. I don't know. Give me a second. Oh, we are live for sure on Twitch, on the old Twitcher.
Okay.
We are live on the old Twitcher. We should be live on YouTube. Why are we not live on YouTube? I should be able to look at my people because I'm not on our Fuel Pod page.
Well, I'm on Discord.
We're live on Discord. That's not what I want. I just went incognito. I don't even know how to go off. I don't even know what incognito is. Oh, who are our friends that are live at this moment? There should be more of us.
You'd think.
You would think. Let's see, Fuel Podcast. See if we're live. We should be live, but I don't see us.
Are we on YouTube?
We are. Well, I mean, we should be, but we're not right now. Give me a second. Let's see if I can work on this thing. Don't write it. We'll do it live. I don't remember how to look at this. Settings, audio and video, live streaming. We should be live streaming to YouTube. I don't know why we're not, Margo. We're not there.
We need to get started because I'm probably going to lose video.
Okay. Give me a second.
Because I have no car.
I feel like I have to go in here and say we're live.
Okay.
I have to switch accounts. No.
Crap.
I forgot it's okay that I do that.
Palace.
Totally forgot that it's okay. Signed in as the Fuel Pod.
I do enjoy a good bowl of pho.
Don't write it. We'll do it live. What do I have to do? Why is this not working? I don't know.
I do not know.
Jay, why is it not working, man? The last time this light came on in like 2 seconds. It didn't. I mean, it's like it was no problem. I'm not very smart, man. New looks, that theme. I don't care. I just want to go live.
So how many different extra bytes are on the intro? So I'll know before I can get started.
This is a normal one. Don't do anything on the out. Okay, like when you get to the very end, just relax for a second. Okay.
I don't know what that means. Like what end? At the very
when we get
end?
to the end of the show, I'm going to need you to just relax.
Okay.
Don't get all wound up and try to end this thing like you did last week. Okay. Just relax.
Okay.
Just take a breath.
The one time.
No, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
You did a great job. I have a surprise for you tonight.
Okay.
And I don't want you to do it tonight because it'll ruin the surprise.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, just start going like this when you need me to cut.
I don't even need you to cut. Well, I'll feel it.
Okay.
I'm going to feel it. I don't know why we're not going live on YouTube.
Well, we need to give up the ghost and just get going.
Wait a minute. You think so?
Yeah.
Are you going to run out of...
From 24 minutes to have 21 minutes remaining.
Well, it's not going to matter anyway. Okay, yeah. You ready?
I'm going to run out of video. Wow. We are back on the Fuel Pod with episode 30, season 2, episode 10. The Magic Carpet Ride.
The Magic Carpet Ride.
Yeah.
I like it.
I love the song, too. And it's perfectly fitting.
So, Jay, we made a decision. Most people don't even know we made this decision. A couple of weeks ago, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, that we were going to do something different with this podcast.
Right.
We decided that there's enough NASCAR podcasts in the world.
Right.
That there's enough NASCAR information out there that's easily consumable. And we were going to focus on Formula One and other kinds of motorsports because you don't even like NASCAR all that much.
I don't.
So, to my surprise, I got my rundown today.
Oh, good.
And I don't know if anybody can see this. Can you see this? That's one page. It's a page and a half. See that? All NASCAR. What is going on? Why are we're leading the show with NASCAR? We're talking NASCAR today, Jay?
Okay, technically, yes. Technically, we're going to talk about one guy in NASCAR.
What did Kyle Busch retire?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, that happened.
Who are we talking about?
We're going to be talking about Ross Chastain.
The Watermelon Man, the unofficially official driver of the podcast.
Yeah, it's a whole different world than it was 5 days ago.
We just talked about that last night. Like it.
We are going to talk about the Mexican GP. We might or might not have some news from the paddock, who knows. And then we're going to talk about fans.
Okay.
And specifically fans that attend races, and more specifically fans that have higher level access and what that means. Okay. That's going to be our discussion.
Well, it's cool because I've actually gotten some media passes at NASCAR, so I can talk a little bit about that. I didn't even know that was on here, so that's kind of cool.
And I thought it'd be a unique topic. You don't hear a lot of people talk about that, but it definitely came up this weekend in Mexico, and I think it needs to be addressed.
Okay, so I was wondering, I did read the rundown, and you said something about Hamilton incident, and it was Lando comments, and I Googled it and couldn't find anything, so I was really excited to hear you talk about it.
Okay.
So, all right, let's start with the Watermelon Man and
his magic carpet ride of greatness.
It was straight out of NASCAR Heat 2002.
Oh yeah, easy.
It was fantastic.
So I want to give a disclaimer first off. We've talked about this many times on the show. You and I've talked about it, either watching racing or standing around with friends talking about it.
Yeah,
should never have to wreck somebody to win a race.
Your thing was, if you have to wreck someone to win, you weren't fast enough to pass them.
You're not as good as they were. Right. So there are a lot of unwritten rules in racing. Now, if you're at a demolition derby or you're at, something where the status quo is hitting another car, then I understand that. But hitting other drivers, so I need to be clear before we get into what we're talking about, because this could hit a crazy gray area. But you also got to add in, and you made this point this week when you equated it to football, when it's, 4th and 1.
Okay.
And you're down by 5 points, you're going to go for it, right? And it doesn't matter which side of the field you're
Absolutely.
You're going to go for it. And, you hope you don't do something stupid like, you're 4th and 1 or 4th and goal from the half-yard line, and you've got a running back that's been averaging 5 yards a carry for the whole game, and then you decide to pass it, and it gets intercepted.
Yep.
And then the Patriots win again.
I'm listening.
I'm actually a huge fan of that. But Pete Carroll, that was just complete hubris that day. Anyway.
It was. Just right with Marshawn Lynch.
So that being said, I'm still all for honorable racing. I'm still all for the unwritten rules of racing.
Okay.
And I'm all about what it takes in moments of desperation to get it done. So that part I get. Now, with that being said, everything I'm about to say is 100% accurate.
Can I get my hot chocolate?
Yes.
I got my fire.
But also it's 100% untrue.
Yeah.
Except that it's all absolutely true.
Okay.
Chad, if you will, allow me to set the scene.
Oh, I love this.
Denny Hamlin is starting his final lap in the number 11 FedUp car, resting comfortably in 5th place, which is where he needs to be because what was at the top?
So this is the transition for the championship race.
It's the transition for the championship race, and he's sitting in the final spot. So he's got those championship homes. They're just beating on his chest, warming his heart up. And he's like, man, I got this. It's the final lap. And it's just going to be status quo. Meanwhile, the Watermelon Man, Ross Chastain, he's in 10th place. He's got no chance, dude. I mean, the man's got no chance. So he calls out to his crew chief because, he's sure his crew chief's going to say, dude, we did the best we could. It's over. We made a good run. That's not what his crew chief says. So his crew chief gets in the headphones and he's like, man, you got to stop thinking NASCAR and start thinking PlayStation. I mean, he didn't say any of that, but that was loosely paraphrased. But that's basically what he told him because he needed to make up 5 spots in 1 lap.
At Martinsville.
Which I'm pretty sure your kids could run a lap at Martinsville pretty fast.
Yep.
So it's a really short track. Chad, I got to tell you, many a man would have buckled in this situation. A lot of men would have just buckled, but not this guy.
Not this guy.
No.
Not the watermelon man.
He cracks his helmet off, puts his AirPods in, gets on his Spotify playlist and tunes up Danzig, the song Mother. He cranks it up to 11 because I tell you what, if you ever watch that replay with that song hitting right about the time he starts his maneuver, it's absolutely perfect. And he takes off. So Denny's coming out of turn 4, no worries. And folks, this is turn 4. This is
a short track.
Of a short track.
Very short track.
And he's got to be thinking, this is it. I got this, man. Until out of his rearview mirror, he sees the number 1 Claphouse racing car ripping off the walls at full tilt in some kind of Need for Speed hot pursuit wall riding maneuver, right? So he's got that left analog stick firmly planted in the wall and his R2 trigger down, and he's shredding through the field while he's also shredding the entire right side of his car. Pretty sure there were some parts flying off that he probably was going to need for next week. And then he can only watch in horror as this car comes past 4 other cars nearing the start finish. And then his nightmare had only just begun, really, because then Chastain bumps the car in front of him, and just before Denny crosses the start finish line, Chastain slides right in there and crosses the line and takes the checkers. Denny's out. I mean, he's out, man. Now, I was rough on Chastain towards the middle of the season, a little bit more than you were.
Yeah.
And then you kind of joined the party because he was doing some dumb stuff.
He was doing some dumb stuff.
And then I watched this weekend, and my immediate thought was Dumb and Dumber, the movie Dumb and Dumber, and Jeff Daniels, because he's one of my favorite actors. When he looked at Lloyd and he said, just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself. So, the Martinsville went nuts. I mean, there was fire and brimstone and human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. And now he holds the Martinsville single lap record.
By like a second.
And I seriously think, yes.
He didn't just beat it.
Yes.
He destroyed it.
He murdered it, right. So I think they should take that whole section of wall that he rode and put a gigantic watermelon print.
Absolutely. That car has to go in the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
It has to.
Has to go.
Yeah. So
my favorite part about all of this, I've got a lot to say about this.
Okay.
Not a whole lot, but I got a little bit. My favorite part about all of this is every driver was like, holy crap. Every one of them.
Did you listen to all the onboard?
I did.
Yeah.
And they were amazing. All of them were like, I can't believe he did that. I've never seen anything like that. It was the most, man, this is maybe hyperbole. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it might be the most amazing racing move I've ever seen. I'm fairly positive because he didn't wreck anyone.
Right.
He didn't bump anyone until the very end, and he barely bumped that guy, and he was already through the start finish line. So that didn't. He did what it took to win, and that was the craziest, most amazing thing I think I've ever seen in a NASCAR race or any race, maybe any race. Period.
Okay.
It was so awesome to go back and watch. I bet I watched that video 20 times. It was awesome.
I was listening to those onboards though, and there's another movie. There's a line in another, and I couldn't remember the movie. But
tell me the line.
One guy goes, "Man, you ever seen anything like that?" And then the other guy's like, "Man, I never even heard of anything like that." So anyway, I thought of that too.
It was so cool, man.
Yeah,
it was so cool. It was just, I mean, like, it was so cool to see.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to say the same thing because I'm still just kind of like, you can't articulate what that looked like.
Right.
And what's going through his head to think of that, going down the backstretch and like, you know what? I'm going to lay it all out. This is all I got. This is the only move that's going to work. And hammers it down on the wall.
Well, and the other part too is it was such a good move that it was hours after the race before people started processing what he did.
Yeah.
Because for 2 hours after the race at least, it was still, can you believe that? I've never even seen anything like that before. And that was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I also think of what's his name from Top Gun leaning down to Mav when they're in the shack going over their maneuvers that day. And he's like, man, that's the gutsiest move I've ever seen, man.
That's,
the
best part of the entire thing is if anybody out there listening doesn't realize, Hamlin and Chastain don't like each other.
No.
They've been at it all year.
Yeah.
And for him to pass him by about a nose and be the one that knocks him out of the championship on that move was just it may have been my favorite thing ever. I will be a Ross Chastain fan now forever.
Did you
That
hear?
was so awesome.
Did you hear Hamlin's line?
No, he just said it was something like we just got knocked out by that, or what? I mean,
I guess we just lost this thing. So yeah,
and it was there, right? I mean,
it.
like it was just like, oh wow.
Yeah, no, I mean, and they're hot off of a bunch of fresh news this week. Is Bubba Wallace is leaving. I forgot who it was that's taking over that car.
Yeah. Okay, wait, hold on. Bubba Wallace is leaving?
Well, he's not going to be in the whatever car he's
the 23
in.
car?
Yeah, I think somebody else is taking that car next year. Don't quote me on that.
Wow. Breaking news. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We have been not covering a whole lot of NASCAR, so I haven't really paid attention. I watch the races when I can, and my life's been crazy lately. I haven't got to watch any races.
Yeah.
A lot of Racing 30 on F1 TV, but wow. Okay. All right.
But anyway, I don't want to get off topic because we still got a lot to process on this Ross Chastain. So a lot of discussion on what NASCAR is going to ultimately do, and they're not going to penalize him.
He didn't do anything wrong.
No, he didn't do anything wrong. And it's important because of my disclaimer at the beginning that he didn't hit anybody else.
He didn't touch anyone.
I mean, he tapped a guy at the end, but that was nothing out of the norm.
And it had nothing to do with the race.
And it was
the race was over at that point.
So, but there's a lot of guys, and for the record, they disclaimed themselves by saying, first off, I thought what he did was the coolest thing. I'd never seen anything like that. I just think it's going to be a once and done.
Yeah.
I think NASCAR is going to outlaw that maneuver because if not, everybody will try that maneuver at the end of every race if they can. But who all can pull it off?
There's not a whole lot of people that'll do that.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, Kyle Busch isn't going to do that. You know what, dude? Maybe I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
If you're you got to win to get in. I mean, and you're in second place.
Yeah, but nobody's done it in years and years. I mean,
I think nobody had the huevos to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of it. I think first off, you have to have the no ego.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to say, I don't care what you think. And a lot of those guys
let go and let God.
A lot of those guys care what you think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They care what their fans think. They care what their peers think. They want to be looked at as the higher class, higher standard driver, the best. Ross Chastain doesn't care, and he's in racing for the championship next weekend.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't care what anybody else thinks, which I like.
I do.
So I don't know if there's going to be a rash of that or not.
Yeah. And you got to realize the sheer amount of luck that went into that, because any little hanger of concrete or whatever that he would have potentially hit would have sent him off the wall and into the crowd. I'm not the crowd, but the other drivers.
Cars, yeah.
Not to mention the fact that, yeah, it was cool, but dude, there's no way that car can be used.
Oh, no.
The frame's got to be bent. The suspension's got to be gone.
It's got to go to the
Obviously, the whole, yeah, just put it in a car hauler and send it to the hall.
Yeah.
And go, hey, this was the car that did the wall ride of 2022.
The best move ever.
Yeah.
And by the way, Ross Chastain's afterwards was so pure and just, it was just, all he kept saying was, holy cow. I can't believe that word, holy cow. I mean, like, how do you not like that dude?
Yeah.
You have to like that guy.
I watched a guy filming it on his phone, and he has a YouTube video, I think, of his girlfriend filming him filming it. But you see it happen, and I didn't even care about him or his video. I'm watching everybody around him, and they're all just going.
Yeah, just hand on head.
The car's already gone. It's already passed, and they're all still looking at the wall he was on going.
Like, your brain takes a second to process what just happened.
Right.
Like, what did he just do? Did that work? Did he get in? You know, like, I mean, it's so cool, man. What a really, really, really cool, thing.
So who else is in this thing with him now next weekend? Because I don't know.
Dude, I don't have a clue. Let's look it up while we're talking.
I know who's not.
I know who's
Denny
not.
Hamlin.
Keep talking, and I'll look it up.
Okay,
I didn't look.
Not everybody, and I'm going all girlfriend right here. Not everybody liked the Ross Chastain wall ride move. And
you're going to fire me up here.
Yeah, let's do this. Kyle Larson.
Okay, hold on real quickly. Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, Oklahoma boy, Ross Chastain, and Chase Elliott.
Okay.
Those are the four that are still in it. I think it's a one-race deal.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So,
if he wins, by the way, if Ross Chastain wins, possibly the greatest sports Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be. It has to be in the top.
Flutie.
Has to be in the top.
It's the Frank Reich
Yeah,
coming in off
coming
the
35-3 or whatever it was. Houston Oilers.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. One guy didn't like it, and this is going to get me fired up because I don't dislike any driver in NASCAR.
Yeah.
I've never disliked a driver until now. Right now.
Well, I can't say that. I've disliked plenty of NASCAR drivers, but I've liked a bunch too, though. So anyway, Kyle Larson, not a friend of mine, not on my Christmas card list. His main quote that we should start with is, "This is not a good look for our sport," says the biggest hypocrite on the grid for NASCAR.
Yeah. What was his other word he used?
Which other word?
And there was, I'm going to get it wrong, but this is pretty close. He gets interviewed. The guy says, "What did you think about that move?"
He goes, "What did you think about that?"
What did you think about it? And the guy says, "I think he said it was pretty cool."
That's what he said.
And
he said, "Did it look cool to you? Is that what it looked like?"
Because it's not a good look for our sport,
right?
And it's embarrassing. That's the part that he lost me.
Okay.
Because, and I've got a little mini rant, and I have it on my thing, and I'm not going to go long.
Do it.
The fact that Kyle Larson, who did this same move in Darlington last year, almost the exact same move, he ran into a car.
Right.
He hit someone. I'm not even going to talk about that he's a hypocrite for doing the same thing and then throwing Ross under the bus.
Because he couldn't pull it off.
2 years ago, Kyle Larson kept the stereotype of the NASCAR good old boy that doesn't like diversity alive and well.
Yeah.
He kept that alive and well by saying a word that no one should ever say. And he said it with no problem in an online platform.
Yeah.
And he had
zero compunction.
The audacity to say that what Ross Chastain, I'm ticked off, Ross Chastain said was embarrassing.
Don't take your
Kyle Larson is an embarrassment to NASCAR, to Hendrick Motorsports, and to every fan that likes NASCAR. They should be embarrassed that he's allowed to race. He should not be. I don't believe in cancel culture. I'm not woke. I'm not any of that crap.
Right.
Kyle Larson should not be on a racetrack. He doesn't deserve it. He was sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to rein it in. But here's the problem. I can deal with all of it.
Yeah.
But you don't get the platform to call somebody else embarrassing.
Yes.
You do not get to call somebody else embarrassing because what you did embarrassed the entire sport and the entire fan base.
There's any number of drivers besides Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch that could get out there and say, "This is not a good look for our sport." And instead of getting mad, I would have been like, wonder why they think that.
Yes.
Right?
Kyle Larson doesn't get that.
He does not get that courtesy.
I'm a Kyle Busch fan. Yeah. Kyle Busch doesn't either.
No.
Because he would do whatever it takes to win.
He would have drove through cars to get to that.
100%.
Yeah.
He would have wrecked someone to try to get there.
Yeah.
I think Kyle Busch from 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago would have. I don't know if this year's would
have.
I
don't either.
But I can deal with this as not a good look for our sport. And you being a hypocrite piece of crap. But you don't get to call him an embarrassment.
Yeah.
You don't. You just don't.
Yeah. You already cracked the seal on
dude, you don't get to say that. And I hope to God that somebody
get fired up for a while.
Somebody would show this to Kyle Larson, because I would love for him to come on here and defend himself calling Ross Chastain an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm concerned, Kyle Larson should be retired.
I got mad just how he treated the interview crew, man. They're just trying to get some feedback. And I know my video's
there goes the video. Now you're going to get me for the rest of the day.
Yeah, you just get chat. Sorry. My feedback, or the feedback he gave it was embarrassing. That was embarrassing.
His behavior.
First off, you don't answer a question with a question. They're like, "So what'd you think of the Ross Chastain maneuver? What did you think?" Yeah. Well, I thought it looked cool. Did you? Did you think it looked cool? What'd you think? Like, bro, who's asking the questions here? Just walk off.
If you don't want to answer questions, you don't want to talk about it, cool.
Bye.
No big deal. And God, there has to be other people out there that feel the same way we do.
Yeah.
Has to be people that are like, I cannot. And then maybe they don't know the story behind Kyle Larson. And they're like, why are you guys so upset?
Yeah.
Look it up. Just look it up. Look up Kyle Larson and see what comes up, and why I didn't have a ride, why he got his ride taken away from him.
And, being an older racing fan too, and us, like, real sports fans, no matter what sport it is, jersey numbers.
Yeah.
Numbers mean a lot to us, right?
Yep.
and he's sporting a number that belonged to a driver that was an upstanding individual. I mean, was he occasionally dirty? Absolutely, but that was a different time.
Yep, for sure.
Because that was Labonte's, right?
Yes.
Terry's in the cornflakes car.
Cornflakes car.
Yeah, and so that always hurts. Anytime I see somebody disgrace a number that was worn and used with pride, it drives me a little bit nuts up the wall. Which is a lot of my problem, by the way, in case you wanted to know, with Kyle Busch. In the 18.
Oh, Bobby Labonte's car.
Yeah.
And you like the Texas Terry and Bobby Labonte from Corpus Christi, Texas?
I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so I got my rant out. I wasn't going to do that.
It's fine, man.
But
we needed it.
I felt like I had some pent-up frustration. And what's funny is Jay sent me a text that said, you know me.
Yeah.
You said, if you're ready for your blood to boil, something along that line, watch the Kyle Larson interview. And I watched it. And at first, I don't get mad about stuff, man. Like, it takes a lot to get me mad. And at first, I was like, okay, the dude's kind of a jerk, whatever.
Yeah.
And I watched it again, and then I heard the embarrassing part, and I couldn't even pick up my phone. I was so mad. I was so the audacity of that.
Yeah.
Dude. Anyway, whatever. I'm tired of talking about that turd.
Okay.
What do we want to move into next?
Believe it or not, we're going to move into Formula One.
Who covers Formula One around here?
Right.
We're a NASCAR podcast now.
Okay.
All right, Mexican GP.
Real quick before we start that, you alluded to that at the beginning of the podcast, but and I agreed to that whole thing where we were kind of move NASCAR out, but at the same time, a lot of me was like, you know what? we're just gonna report, and I think you're in agreement with me.
Yeah.
What we want to.
We're a motorsports podcast.
Yeah, it's a motorsports podcast. That's what it's supposed to be. So I don't mind running lead with this. This was the story this week.
The story. And here's the deal. Until the corporate overlords are paying us a lot and telling us what to talk about, we'll talk about whatever the Hyundai we want to.
Absolutely, man. And plus, that one incident was a lot more fun than what we're about to talk about, which is the Mexican Grand Prix.
Otherwise known as the most boring race ever.
Which is weird because that's usually one of my favorite races. And let me set the scene on this one because...
You're the scene setter today.
Yeah, I love this venue, bro.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask for a more gladiator-esque, finishing up a lap in Mexico. You're
going through the stadium and
you're coming into the stadium, the crowd, and I know the drivers don't hear that, but when you're watching it, it looks
you can hear it, yeah.
Yeah, and I know when they do their victory lap, their cool down lap, and they come back into the stadium goes nuts, and nowhere else can they get that.
Yeah.
It's usually two high walls, or they're out in the middle of nowhere, coming around turns and whatnot, but coming into a stadium, and I think that's a cool venue. Also, it's Dia de la Muertos down in Mexico.
Dia de los Muertos.
Yes, whatever that is. And
Day of the Dead.
I know, man. I'm not with you. And corresponding with Halloween, and that's a huge celebration down there. And then, of course, you got Checo Perez running with the top team on the grid. So big chance of him at least getting a podium, right?
Which he did, which is awesome.
Right. So begs the question, why was the race so boring? Well, I'm going to tell you, Chad. I'm going to tell you why it was boring. Max Verstappen is right now the fastest and most talented driver on the grid with one of the best reaction times I've ever seen and the killer instinct to do what he's got to do. The problem with that is it's boring because he gets out and, this is what I always watch for now. Anytime he gets out front, I'm watching the gap. That's all I'm watching is the delta between him and whoever's in second.
Yeah.
And Lewis Hamilton did a, pardon the pun, lights out job trying to keep that delta down.
He raced a really good race.
Right, and he did. But by the end of the race, here we got Verstappen just running out there on vacation, 15 seconds ahead, 15.6 or 7 seconds.
It's just one of those very uncommon things that it doesn't happen a lot, and it doesn't mean it's going to keep happening. But you have the best car, best driver combination. Best car, best driver, best principal, best race engineer, best strategist, all happen to be at their peak performance.
And the Lord of Darkness, Helmut Marko, running it from the background. Yeah. So, it's a Star Wars story.
It's a perfect storm, man. They're the best team on the grid, and it's not close. It's just not close.
It's not even funny. It's, and I'd made up my mind going into that race that the only race I was really going to watch was McLaren Alpine.
Yeah.
Because that's the only...
Can we talk about McLaren for a second? I know you have it in here somewhere.
I do.
First off, Danny Rick penalty was BS. And I know you have that on here. That penalty was ridiculous.
It was crap.
Now, I don't know if he was half a car length, I think some of that was his, but a 10-second penalty for that was bad. He had the gap. He got his nose in there. He got halfway up the car for his nose.
He was further up than halfway because when he hit him, it was right behind the front tire.
Right behind the front. I'm saying that it possibly could have been, but it definitely wasn't a 10-second
Not to mention,
penalty.
he was holding his line. It literally, this time, I hate to be a George Russell on this.
Yeah.
Yuki made the cut.
Oh, Yuki was wide.
Yeah.
Danny Rick saw the hole, went in, and he closed down on top of him. 100%.
Yeah.
It's clear as day. You can see it. I was shocked the FIA ruled against Danny Rick. But, man, he drove the wheels off that thing after, didn't he? Man, yeah, that was with Danny Rick's one of his best races of the year.
Yeah, came in P7, which he didn't deserve to be there. So that's just him. That wasn't the car.
Yeah, because where was Lando?
I think 9.
So they were, he outdrove the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even with a 10-second penalty made that. And even, here's the other thing. He ran 45 laps on medium compound tires.
Which is normally what?
32.
Tops. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at one point, he was way up. I think he was in 5th or 6th. And Lando was in 12th. And then they pitted Lando. That's why he ended up so far behind Danny. And then 2 laps later, I think they pitted Danny. And then they had basically flip-flopped. Lando had worked his way up. Then Danny gets the penalty. Then he shoots right back up through the field, man.
He races like his hair's on fire.
Yeah, so unbelievable.
That part was great.
Yeah, the broadcast team, though, just completely – and they took the day off too, man. They didn't really talk about the Danny thing. Chad's laughing right now because I got salty.
You just added all this stuff and I didn't see it.
Yeah. So
that's fantastic.
Chad, he put on the rundown what happened to Ferrari, never in contention. And that got me so salty that I said, first off, you didn't capitalize Ferrari.
So give me a second. Why I put it on here.
Okay.
So I've told everybody, all of our listeners, I got a lot of kids. We have a lot of stuff going on. It's Halloween weekend.
Right.
There was no time for me to sit and watch the race. It just didn't happen. So I watched the race recap, the 30-minute highlight, and then I watched the 10 best in-car things. So they didn't talk. There was no Ferrari talk.
Right.
On my 30-minute race highlight, everybody talked about a boring race. We were looking for highlights. Zero Ferrari highlights for the entire 30 minutes. None. Then I look at they're in 5th and 6th. Now, I get it, man. 5th and 6th, it's a good race. Totally fine. 5th and 6th is a good race if you're McLaren.
Right.
It's not a good race if you're Ferrari. Especially this year. Ferrari has been better for most of the year than Mercedes. And both Mercedes finished ahead of them. I don't understand. We talked about this. I felt like I get the Ferrari hate on here sometimes.
Yeah.
I know that people listen probably think I don't like Ferrari. We've talked about, for them next year, they need as much momentum and as much going well, finishing up the year, going into winter testing, and then going into Bahrain. We need as much good. You can't run 5th and 6th.
Okay, so.
But I also don't know what's going on.
And some of this is guesstimation. And for the record, I don't think you have a hate Ferrari. And I think I've been pretty clear that I've been pretty hard on them this year. And they're my favorite team. Not my favorite 2 drivers, but my favorite team. So a couple things are going on. One, it's no different than a pro football team that has no chance or has buys all the way through the last round of the playoff, putting in third-string people. So it's no different with Formula One in a lot of ways. Plus, you got to understand the Ferrari mentality. They're not going to go after something that's impossible. Okay, so it's impossible for them to win a championship this year. It's not impossible for them to win one next year.
Okay.
So you're not going to get a huge chassis redesign this year. We're probably not going to see that till 2025, 2026. So why not take this time? They also knew after practice and qualifying that the 2 fastest teams on the grid were Red Bull and Mercedes, not Red Bull Ferrari.
Okay.
I don't think Leclerc was happy. I think Leclerc is on your side of the court as far as this goes.
He should be.
Yeah. And all drivers should be. But I think at some point, Binotto and that team's got to go, okay, let's do some diagnostics. Let's use this race for diagnostics. It's got some straights. It's got a couple of hard braking turns. It's got a chicane. It's got a sweeper section. It's a really good track to do some practice during a race. in race conditions. And I don't know if that's true. But if it were me, that's what I'd be doing.
I don't know. I just feel like, I mean, I feel like, how many times have been the Detroit Lions? I'm going to use them. Sorry, Dane.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to break my heart with that, man. All the years with Barry.
At the end of the year, I mean, when you're out of playoff contention.
Yeah.
And you always hear like, well, you don't want to win because you got the playoff, you got the draft or blah, 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 blah.
You don't want to risk hurting
somebody. But you
somebody.
still want to go into the offseason on a high note.
Yeah.
I just feel weird. Like, I don't know. And maybe I didn't watch practice and qualifying. Maybe they were the third strongest team. And that's just where they were going to be. It just looked real. I mean, like, I wasn't trying to bag on Ferrari. It just looked really weird to have them not even be talked about in that entire 30-minute highlight video. For them not to be even discussed was odd.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like I mean, they were no part of this race. I mean, it was just, hey, we're going to run around 5th and 6th and cool. I don't know. It was just weird. And that was not supposed to be a shot at you or Ferrari, even though I got 6 different things on how bad Red Bull is.
Yeah, I blew up his rundown with some salt comments.
And that's fine.
And which they're funny because, first off, I started off with what's going on with Red Bull not following rules.
Well, I started off. Can we get with what I started?
Yeah, go for it. Do it.
Because I actually wanted. No, let's do your funny stuff.
I mean, because you did bring Danny Rick, which is at the bottom. You did bring him all the way up.
No. Do
whatever.
No. Do your funny stuff, and then I'll ask a real question.
Okay, so as we know, also the FIA came out with their budget violations things, and I know everybody on the internet saying, "Oh, Red Bull's getting penalized because they paid too much for sandwiches,"
which is false.
It's absolutely false. That's not even the big thing.
Yeah, we just categorized it as sandwiches.
Although at $1.6 million overage on catering, I'm wondering what's on these sandwiches.
I'm pretty stoked up.
So, but the big deal was that they were taking parts off of their driving cars and moving them to show cars that they use for shows and promos. Not illegal. That's fine, but you have to report the value of those parts. And they're saying that Red Bull devalued those too far.
So they took a $1 million part, put it on a car, and called it a $500,000 part. Why does that matter?
Because they are held to a very strict, this is what you can spend. So you add it, and there's a lot to it.
If you take that $1 million off
on the parts, and then there's the whole bit.
So you're saying, like, if they take this $1 million part and they devalue it into $500,000, they just opened up $500,000 for you to spend.
Yes.
Okay.
But it didn't, right? So, like we're saying that it's the Superman 3 / Office Space theory. Hey, we're not really stealing anything. We're just taking fractions of a penny.
Yeah.
So how's that not stealing again?
Explain to me how that's not stealing again.
Yeah. So anyway, they got in trouble for that, to which they were given a penalty, and then they were given a forced 10% reduction of wind tunnel usage for next year, which I'm guessing an FIA guy's got to just camp out at Red Bull's headquarters next
when
year.
They use it not.
Right, but Horner, talking about salty, Horner gets salty in an interview when they're like, so, what do you think of this 10% reduction in wind tunnel usage? And he said, and I quote, he said, you can burn the beeper down. I don't think it would really matter.
Tells them they're feeling pretty good about next year.
Mean, that was a savage line. Yes. Yeah. And I don't think he's wrong.
They must feel real good about their car next year.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Anyway, that's what he said. And then I actually mimicked your line about Ferrari with Perez.
Yeah. I was really hoping he would be in second.
I did too. And I'm glad he got the podium. And you'd have thought he won the race by the celebration at the end. But it was good to see him get on the podium in his home race. Because 2 years ago, he was DNF.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
last year he got third too, right?
Yeah. So.
Okay, so my real question with Red Bull. What's going on with them in Sky Sports? Because I know Verstappen said he wasn't going to answer any questions, wasn't going to mess with them. Christian Horner said, I'm not answering any questions from Sky Sports.
And I contributed 0 band. I saw that in my feed on my phone that pops up on my notifications. And I wanted to look, and I just didn't have the bandwidth this week to look at it.
So I looked it up, and Verstappen, here's the deal, but I thought there has to be more to this.
Right.
So Verstappen asked Verstappen why no interviews.
Okay.
And he just said over the course of the year, they keep disrespecting us and keep doing this and keep doing that, and enough's enough. Basically said they're not professional. They keep on our case about everything, and we're just done. Like, I'm just not answering any more
I
questions.
get that. That's fine.
I do too. I just don't know what happened.
I don't either. Did he not get specific?
He didn't get specific with anything, and so I need to dump back in and see.
That's one thing I do like about Max.
He didn't throw anybody in the bus.
No, and he doesn't do that. He backs his team. And, 2 years ago, that wouldn't have been Max Verstappen. He'd have been going nuts.
Yeah.
I think
he is. I don't know. He's got the killer instinct.
Yeah, I remember him sitting in that post-race interview saying, I don't like these kind of questions. If I get any more of these questions, I'm going to headbutt somebody.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, this was just very calm, cool.
Yeah.
Hey, they're not professional. I don't think they're treating us correctly. So
and that's all he has to say. I mean,
that's all Kyle Larson had to say.
Yeah.
If Kyle Larson could have taken a page out of Max Verstappen's book.
Yeah, he's not on that same level, man. They're not even close.
No. Broadcast team completely missing the call. What did they miss?
They didn't have a whole lot to highlight this weekend, and the things they could have, they missed it.
Yeah.
They didn't talk about Sebastian Vettel's carrying on still with the, substandard car still trying to rip around the track, or Alonso before he had a little tech problem doing his thing, or Danny Rick. They mentioned Danny Rick about the 44 laps on the tires, but you didn't hear anything about what he did after a 10-second penalty till almost halfway through the week. So it really bugged me.
Just bad.
It was just badly covered,
which is crazy because they're usually pretty good.
And they drew so much attention to themselves this past weekend because they did this whole, hey, we're in Mexico, we're going to do this 60s, 70s, 80s theme, and Buxton was wearing some kind of ridiculous admiral's coat that looked like something Freddie Mercury would have worn at a Queen concert in the 70s, but.
Okay.
And then afterwards, he's sweating bullets because it's 158 degrees out there, and he was wearing a wool coat. Anyway, but then I felt like they blew the call this weekend, and I think that team is great. There's some people in there I don't really enjoy, but it just really bugged me because they normally do a standout job, and they just didn't. So anyway, it's pretty bad when I would have rather seen Nico Rosberg and Jenson Button do it.
So yeah. So what's this may be in the discussion topic, I don't know, but it says the boos Hamilton received. Did he get booed at podium?
He got booed. You know how they do the 3 podium post-race interviews before they actually do the podium or whatever?
Yeah.
And so they did it in reverse order this time. They interviewed Max first. And then they call Hamilton up, and he's like, he literally starts out with, he goes, first off, I just want to thank this crowd. And then they just, and he's like, even though I'm getting quite a lot of boos, I really enjoy this venue. And
is it just because he's racing against Checo and they love Checo, so they hate everyone else? Or
that might have been part of it. But here's the thing, and my record's clear on the fact that I'm not a huge Lewis Hamilton fan. I've kind of found myself rooting for him a little bit this year because I like the new humble Hamilton.
Yeah.
Right, but
it's a good nickname.
I just copyrighted that
right
off. Anyway, none of these guys deserve to get booed.
I agree.
Maybe Latifi. Yeah.
I get it.
I still wouldn't boo him, dude. He's better than me.
I don't boo football teams very rarely.
Yeah.
Sometimes, Texas or something. But, yeah, it's weird to boo a guy.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Unless you're just that much into it, I guess. I don't know. But, here's my deal. You bought the ticket. Don't be unruly. Don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
If you want to boo, I guess.
Disrespectful.
It is disrespectful. I agree. Fan experience. That brings us to our discussion topic, Jay.
It does. So, some things came out of the F1 paddock this week.
Okay.
Pierre Gasly, in an interview, was talking about how at the 2 most recent races, Circuit of the Americas and Mexico, he's come back into the paddock after a practice session or whatever to find his personal effects bag open. And nobody else was in there. He's found his passport open. Somebody had flipped through his passport. And then he was talking about there's literally no security. So these people that have paddock passes, they're allowed to go to the paddocks of the teams that they have a paddock pass for.
So if you have a Red Bull one, you can go inside the Red Bull paddock.
Right, but you can't walk down to Haas and just walk in and get an espresso.
Okay.
Right? So, and he said, dude, there's literally no security at these things. They see your pass, your lanyard, and that's it. No big deal. No big heavy dude with a badge or anything standing there. And so, he was like, I try to entertain the fans as much as possible. But he said, lately, I just feel like hanging out in the hospitality tent because he's like, you guys got to realize we need time before a race to get ready, mentally and physically. And he said, I've got people that just like walk up to me in the weirdest spots that they really shouldn't be in. He's come out of his room and found people in the hallway. And he's not the only driver. And I referenced Lando's comments, and I put his on here because his got me a little fired up, sort of like Kyle Larson got yours fired up. Because Lando, he said a lot of the stuff that Gasly said, and I was like, okay, that's fine. I understand where you're coming from. But then he said, these people should consider it a privilege they get to see us at all.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little.
I mean, dude,
that one kind of sticks in your craw.
I was like that cop that dragged up all of these
people are the ones that kind of pay you, man.
Yeah.
You know, if they're not going to watch the race and seeing it on TV, then you don't get the money. Bro.
And I'm already not a huge Lando fan, but that pretty much sealed it right there. I'm like, first off, these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might as well have said, peasants should consider it a privilege they get to see us at all.
I'm shocked that went kind of unnoticed.
It did. And even after the article, it went kind of unnoticed. Nobody's really said anything. I was looking for responses to the article, and nobody. So, and here's my thing. There's a lot of people, your standard middle-class working stiff out there is going to be like, well, these guys make $100 million a year, whether that's true or not, so they should just deal with it. And I do disagree with that, because they're still working people. It's technically our fault that they're making that much money, for one. And they're still human beings. And unless they've done anything illegal, they have the right to privacy and all the same things that we enjoy as as peasants.
Yeah.
So I agree. I don't think people should be allowed in there at all. So I think there should be like a VIP area for people that paid extra for the experience, and they go sit in there, and if a driver wanders in, he wanders in. If he doesn't, he doesn't.
So I told you before, I kind of have a unique experience here, and I'm not trying to so working with Will, we've been part of his broadcast team before.
Yeah.
And so we have broadcast passes. So you can go down on pit road during the race. There's not a lot of people down there. It's just media.
Yeah.
So it's not bad. Pre-race is kind of crazy, but you don't see any of the drivers or the crews in there working, but you can't get close to them.
Yeah.
You cannot go where the drivers are at all. That's not happening. You can go to the little broadcast area, but you're not going to where the drivers are. So that's weird to me that they're letting fans and just anybody who buys a VIP experience to just walk around wherever they're at.
Right.
During the race, it is. I've been back there during the race, and it is tough. There's, like I said, not a whole lot of people there, but there is some. It's not packed, but they're trying to move tires back and forth. And in one race, it was Jimmy Johnson's crew chief, Chad Canals. I think I might have been with Mike. I'm not 100% sure. He jumped off the pit box, had to go somewhere, and takes off running down pit road right in front. We had to move out of his way. Yeah. And, in the moment, I thought, man, this guy's trying to do his job. I wouldn't want somebody standing in my way while I'm trying to do my job.
Right.
So I get it, man. I want the fan experience to be amazing. I want things to be awesome and people, because I would love to get a paddock pass and go around there and walk around.
Oh, absolutely.
But driver and team safety has to be paramount, and they have to have somewhere. I can't believe they let people in their paddocks.
Yeah.
Where those drivers are. It seems like that should be closed off to team only.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I've got a little bit there as somebody that's been down there in the middle of it.
Yeah, and
I feel like you need a little bit more restricted access.
Not as media, but I've had infield and pit lane passes at Daytona and Darlington. And so I know what you're talking about, although I feel like, and having done that, I feel like F1 and watch when you watch the F1 post-race show,
by the way,
because they put the post-race show at the start of the paddock alley, right?
Yep.
And you can't even see the concrete. There's
so
100,000 people in the lane.
It does, an F1 grid at the beginning blows my mind too.
Oh, man. And then 30 seconds it's empty.
It's just really weird to me that they let all those people out there around the cars. Don't get me wrong, NASCAR, I've been out there, we've walked around the cars, but there's no drivers next to them. There's no team members next to them. They're not letting you go up and get that close. close.
Right.
It's just odd to me.
Yeah.
It's just odd to me.
Well, it's Europe and Asia.
I guess so, man. Okay, so the fans in the stands was your next topic in here, and the Great Orange.
Yeah, we had anytime, of course, Belgium and Austria. We had the Verstappen nation out in full force, and they always pop that orange smoke. And I remember watching it on F1 TV, and the whole cloud just kind of went across the track during the formation lap, and I was like, man, that can't be good.
It's kind of dangerous.
Right.
It seems like it would be dangerous anyway.
And then somebody threw one of those grenades onto the track.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, and I think they found out it was like a security dude.
It was a security dude. He walks down the stairs and chunks it.
Yeah. So, that's just another piece of the whole fan bit where, I think they need to be careful, what they're doing. And there's an inherent responsibility of behavior, I think, that fans, and it's getting a little bit out of control, I think.
I think so, too.
So
I think fans across all sports, and I know people listening to this probably don't want to hear that, but fans across all sports are getting a little crazy. I mean, I have to think before I take my kids to like we're going to Cowboys games in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I know they're going to hear things they don't need to hear. I know they're going to have to deal with people they shouldn't have to deal with.
Especially an American football game. Dude.
Yeah, it's as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
An NFL game. College isn't so bad. A pro football game, well, I guess college at OU is not that bad.
Well, college, when you're a student in the student section,
pretty rough.
I can remember some of the things that came out of my own mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm not proud of those things, and it wouldn't be something I'd want my mom to hear. Sorry, Mom. But, it can get bad. So.
All right. Do we have any – hold on, wait. What's the ham incident in Mexico?
Well, that's the booze.
Oh, the booze.
We kind of already referenced it. But here's my thing. These guys are the top 0.5% of motorsports performers in the world.
Yep.
It is incumbent upon us to understand the gravity of that, I think, and I think we should set the bar a little higher. So, anyway, and you wouldn't have Max Verstappen without Lewis Hamilton.
No.
And you wouldn't have Lewis Hamilton without Schumacher, and you wouldn't have Schumacher without Ayrton Senna. And, it all builds on itself. So,
what is the saying? Standing on the shoulder of giants?
Yeah. It's like the reason I don't absolutely hate the Yankees. I'm a Red Sox fan, but there is no Red Sox-Yankees rivalry without the Yankees, so I can't hate them. Yeah, I can't want them not to play.
Right.
I want to be able to beat them. Right. So, anyway.
Any news from the paddock before we go to podiums and back markers?
We don't. There's still all kinds of scuttlebutt about. You got people, fake news on Twitter constantly about Danny Rick's not off the grid in 2023.
I saw that today, but I don't know what it is.
That he's definitely going to do reserve driver for somebody. And, so people still talking about E-Series, but I don't think that's happening either. Everybody seems to think Logan Sargent's got the Williams seat on lock with Latifi leaving. And it's old news, but obviously Gasly is going to be at Alpine next year. So you got the French. This is going to be weird, though. You got the French team with 2 French drivers.
Yeah, the French connection.
Yeah. Gotta call it that, man.
They should call
Dangerous liaisons.
Yeah, I like it. So speaking of Alpine, just real quickly, we only got a few minutes left. If you follow us on Twitch, we started our dual career
at Alpine.
With Alpine.
Yeah.
Which it was a cool car. I had a little mishap. Jay got the win. I came in second. It was a good race, a lot of fun. So if you get a chance, you want to check it out, we'll be on there. I don't know when we're going to be on there. We probably don't really have a schedule, but we'll be on there when we can. Just watch for our little live icons.
All right, man. We got to do podiums.
All right, Jay, you want to go first? You want me to?
I'll go.
Okay.
So number 3 is going to be Checo Perez because he got number 3 at Mexico, and good for him. Podium at his home race. Number 2, Danny Rick for not just laying back the last few races of the year. He's still playing it strong and letting everybody know why he should be on the grid next year.
Should be on the grid.
And number 1 goes to the Watermelon Man, Ross Chastain. I think there's no argument there. The most unbelievable motorsports move probably this year for sure.
So mine, number 3, Lewis Hamilton. Why Lewis Hamilton? Because he just keeps stacking up podiums.
Yeah.
He keeps stacking up those podiums, man. He raced a good race. Number 2, NASCAR. Why? Because everybody is talking about NASCAR for the first time all year.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not wrong.
None of those drivers need to be mad right now because you just got a big bump because everyone's talking about NASCAR. Number 1, the reason they're all talking about NASCAR, the Watermelon Man himself, Mr. Ross Chastain.
Yeah.
And 2 back markers, Jay.
So my back markers are Max Verstappen. And I'm going to reference the movie Gladiator when his Gladiator instructor looked at him and said, I wasn't the greatest because I killed quickly. I was the greatest because I entertained the crowd. Max Verstappen's not entertaining the crowd.
Yeah, he's not doing that.
He could have backed up. Yeah, exactly. So Max Verstappen, watch that movie. It's running on Netflix right next to your show. So
there you go.
Kyle the Crybaby Larson comes in second for me, or Kyle the Hypocrite Larson, or Kyle, what are you thinking, Larson, or Kyle, you're not a good look for our sport, Larson. And number 1, the fans at Mexico. You can't cheer one guy and absolutely just act like the other guy was terrible. So, I had a real problem with that this weekend. It caught me wrong.
Number 3, candy corn. It's Halloween, and who likes candy corn? Number 2, the Mexican GP, just because it was boring. And number 1, the 5-car driver that should not be named, Mr. Hypocrite himself,
Lord Voldemort.
I hope Hendrix fires you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Jay, where should they listen to us at? What should they do?
So
you did a good job last week.
Yeah, and I'm not ready for it this week. You can catch Chad and myself on Twitch at ChadH610 and GMJ729. Catch us both on Twitter. Chad's still ChadH610, and I'm JNeil729. You can catch us on YouTube somewhere. On Discord, we're at Fuel Pod.
YouTube, I think we're just Fuel Pod or Fuel Podcast. For some reason, it's not live right now, but we'll have this video up somewhat.
I'm going to call YouTube, give him a piece of my mind.
Even though it's not going to have Jay in it for half of it.
Yeah, no joke.
So at the very end, Jay put a reference on here. Jay, do you want to tell me what that reference is?
You talking about the Dumb and Dumber one?
Yeah, this one. And that is the Fuel Pod. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you guys. Night.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I loved it, man. Thank you.
You're welcome.